Tell me something. Once you started making these works, did you had any of your own fears and innovations when it came to changing your changing your path in the sense of moving to a path that feels more natural to you?
I always have this fear in my head that I'm going to be choosing an object and somebody is going to be interpreting it the wrong way. Somebody else might see that and be like, oh, she's trying to talk about XYZ. And sometimes I'm not trying to talk about XYZ. Oh, I've always wanted to be an artist. I was drawing in the street with chalk, making unicorns and parking lots and all sorts of things since I was very, very young. My parents always encouraged it. I think I had a very rare situation in that growing up, my parents actually wanted me to be an artist. My work, it celebrates the feminine, but it also acknowledges that you can be other things.
Hey you, are you an emerging woman artist ready to take your work on a global stage? Want to get spotlight and resources to elevate your career to the next level? We've got just something for you. Introducing the Emerging Women Artist Award 2023 Fall Edition by Arts to Hearts Project. An extraordinary opportunity for women in the arts to showcase their brilliance and to be supported in their creative journey further. If you're creating painting, sculptures, mixed media, or new media, you're eligible to enter this award. If you have more questions about the eligibility for this award, make sure you send us an email at info@arts2heartsproject.com or simply DM submit on Arts to Hearts Project Instagram. So, prizes, oh my god, they're absolutely amazing. Let me get started. For a first prize winner, we have an absolutely amazing package that awaits you. From including a cash prize of $300 to a physical award that will be sent to you, to an exclusive series of mentorship calls with the industry experts like Asher Longshore, Liz Legit, and many more. That is what if we are just getting started with. Not only that, the winner will also get an exclusive interview on this very podcast with me on the Arts to Hearts podcast and an opportunity to be published in the Studio Visit book, one of our favorite projects, and an exhibition opportunity of a virtual show with BXP Contemporary. The second and the third winners also will enjoy fantastic prizes, including exclusive interviews, mentorship opportunities, ATH directory listing, which all of in itself is over $2,000, $3,000. Plus, we are giving you so many more resources to get you started elevating your creative career so that you get the visibility you deserve. Don't miss this chance to have your art be recognized globally, to put yourself in a global art contemporary scene. The submissions close on 8th of November 2023, midnight EST. Apply now to the Emerging Artist Award 2023 Fall Edition, and we hope to see you thrive in your creative career like nobody else. Visit our website to learn more about the award and how you can be a part of this amazing opportunity. To also know more, you can simply DM submit to Arts to Hearts Project's Instagram, and we'll be there to host you. Welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here.
It is truly my pleasure. Ali, I'm very excited because I saw your work and I really, really enjoyed it. And you were also the winner of the Emerging Artist 2023 Summer Edition Award. I think what really stuck to me was how feminine, but also how masculine your work was. Like it was so bold and strong and statementish, but also it was it was feminine and it was sparkly and it was embroidery. And if anything, I am a fan of embroideries and all of that. Tell me something. What is your work about? I really want to, I want listeners to listen about that.
My work is about like me on my journey as I am coming from the Southern United States and growing up with that perspective. And so growing up in the Southern United States, women are really told that they are supposed to act a certain way, dress a certain way, and just like be a certain way. And so I was really not into that idea. And when I moved to Iowa during grad school, I started to retaliate against that a little bit. This idea of like, there's only one certain way to be. And so my work it celebrates the feminine, but it also acknowledges that you can be other things. And so when you're talking about there being really masculine elements in it, I use motifs like chains and locks and really heavy industrial things. And those are sort of this one side of the spectrum. And then you have this other side of the spectrum, which is like pom poms, and I use nail polish and rhinestones and glitter. And so there's this real duality of these two things and kind of acknowledging that there's a spectrum between those.
I love that. And I think that is what really resonated with me in the sense of, um, I think it had that on the face boldness, but also the subtleness and the femininity of, like, you have, like, when I look at your work, I felt like there is a message I would want to, like, I need to hear it. What is it trying to say? Because I felt like there is something that it's trying to say. Tell me something. Did you always wanted to become an artist?
Oh, I've always wanted to be an artist. I was drawing in the street with chalk, making unicorns and parking lots and all sorts of things since I was very, very young. And my parents always encouraged it. I think I had a very rare situation in that growing up, my parents actually wanted me to be an artist. They saw how
Oh,
much joy it
wow.
brought me. They saw, yeah, it's incredible. I know, like, you don't usually hear that. Usually parents are pushing their kids to be a doctor, scientist, or
Yeah. And
something else.
specifically, I think when you're talking about women expected to play certain roles, and you sharing that experience, I think coming from a setup like that, because I understand, I've been born and brought up in India, a very patriarchal setup where women are expected so much in so many certain ways, apart from what just they want to be. So I completely understand. So how has your journey been? How have you navigated your yourself from that point to where you are right now?
So after undergrad, I was a Wingate Fellow for a year, and so that really helped me make a bunch of work that I wanted to. So I was working with fabric. I started making work that was more sculptural,
And that was
and
from the
then from
beginning?
there, I moved. Oh, how far back are we talking? Are we talking like 7 years old, or are we talking like?
No, okay. Tell, like, once you started to, like, take things seriously, have your, let's say, degree in the arts, or, like, at that point, I think, I'm just trying to, I'm just assuming, but a lot of times where people go in traditional art schools, it's like, you're being a painter. I think a lot of art schools at the center are focused on making painters, and then people find their voices and break out that mold, where your work is very different from traditional painting, and so were you someone who really like the work that your shows, like, it's like a rebel? Did you have that rebel in the beginning, or as well, and you were finding like doing this, or you found your way through that?
Yeah, so in undergrad, I started off as a painter. So I was really committed to just making paintings, and I took a course that really challenged that. So one of the assignments that we had to do was based on making something ephemeral. And so for that, I ended up doing a performance. And there was actually a period of time where I was really invested in doing performative art and making these really elaborate costumes when I was an undergrad. And so that's sort of what started me onto this path of thinking about, well, maybe I'm not doing performances anymore. Maybe I'm not making garments anymore, but maybe I'm making objects that feel like they're stand-ins for a body or are performing somehow themselves. Because I realized in undergrad, I actually don't like doing performance art that much. Like, I love the idea of it. I love seeing other people be performers, but yeah, I was not the performer. I love the costuming part of it. I love the symbolism behind it, and I love how it related to a body, but I didn't want to actually be doing it. And so I did start making these sculptures that resembled like pieces of jewelry or things that people would wear. And so people would make the connection that these are things that people are wearing and think about the effects that they have on them if they were wearing it.
Tell me something. Once you started making these works, did you had any of your own fears and innovations when it came to, like, changing your changing your path, in the sense of moving to a path that feels more natural to you, but maybe not the traditional path?
Yeah, I think it was scary because in my head, like, okay, paintings are so easy to transport, they're so portable. So a lot of it was just like the physicality of the work. Now I make work that is so delicate. Everything is ceramic. There's tiny little ceramic hoops and ceramic chains, and every little thing is so fragile. And so moving it around and shipping it just becomes like another job to like maintaining the work that I never had to deal with before with painting. And I think for me, that was the biggest struggle. Like, and also like thinking about, what objects am I representing in my work and what do all of these objects represent? I think I always have this fear in my head that I'm going to be choosing an object and somebody is going to be interpreting it the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes I just pick objects because they're in my daily life and I want
yeah,
to incorporate them in there because it's something I come across. But then somebody else might see that and be like, oh, she's trying to talk about XYZ. And sometimes I'm
yeah.
not trying to talk about XYZ.
What I want to ask you is like, moving your work from painting to a new mixed media. As an artist, I think every little change feels a lot overwhelming, specifically when you're in the beginning. Like, when we're in the beginning stage of a career, we're always thinking too much, generally, but also too scared of like going into our original selves because we feel like a lot of times we're being told, okay, this is how you get to be an artist, just like you told, this is how you get to be a woman. Like, being it, there's a very stereotypical image that can be painted on what a successful artist can look like. Versus there can be several images of how and what a successful artist looks like. Right. So did you have any of those inhibitions when it came to finding your voice? And how did you find your voice? How did you confirm yourself? Like confide in yourself, in fact, that okay, this is something that truly feels real and authentic, or something that could be into something. Did you even think like that?
Yeah, so starting with the first part, you're talking about like this transition to a new medium. I think for me, like moving to painting to sculpture was very difficult, but at the same time, like I was using a lot of the same marks in the way that I was painting when I was making these sculptures. And so I did a lot of these like wrapping marks. And when I was working in paintings, I did a lot of repetition. And so you see a lot of repetition in the sculptures, the early sculptures that I was making versus the paintings that I was making. And that just sort of became more and more elaborate over time. I think that in art school, my professors were sort of trying to push me to make my work a little messier. And I knew that that wasn't me. Like I tried a few things. It wasn't really working. I tried to like leave some frayed edges on the fabric, but I knew that at my heart, like I needed to be like super anal retentive about everything that I was doing. And as I like worked, I just told myself, okay, I'm going to make this work that I want to be making, the work that feels right. And the work that felt right was just the work where I was evenly spacing all these little rhinestones, smoothing the surface as much as I possibly could, like just being as precise as I could possibly be. And I think the thing that made me realize, yes, I'm making the right work is just like, I'm happy to be in my studio. Like, I want to go in my studio and make work. And there have been times when I was experimenting with some other things where I just didn't want to be in my studio. I thought, oh, this is a drag. This is just another thing that I have to do. This is the work that I have to make if because this is the work that people want to see. And like that work wasn't fulfilling for me because I wasn't willing to push it. So if I know that if I want to go to my studio, if I get excited by making something goofy that maybe doesn't have that much meaning, then that's okay. Like, you know what? It's just going to spur me on to make other things that might have more meaning.
What have you been your biggest challenges as someone who's, who is, let's say, in the early years, early to mid years of building their career as an artist? And then I will talk about building a career as a woman artist both. Does that feel different to you? Also, being like, you have your subject matter as being the center as a woman identity. There's a huge conversation about being an artist, woman artist. But I personally feel like we're a platform. I truly believe that as women, we have a very different experience and a perspective towards things we do. So I want to hear what. Let's start with your own experience on your hurdles, the hard parts, the good parts.
Yeah, so besides making the work that I make in the studio, these big bedazzled sculptures, I also am a mural painter. And so my mural painting career is really what funds everything else. It's like the thing that makes me money. But it's also the thing that takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy because I'm working with people, I'm sending a lot of emails, I'm creating designs. And one really big struggle for me with that is just like, I'm not always making the mural designs that I want to be. Like sometimes they're going to be in a small town in Iowa. They're going to be highly rendered. They're going to be really specific. They're going to be about that community. And it will just have nothing to do with like the work that I'm making in the studio. And so that's something I'm really trying to balance right now is like learning when to say no, um, trying to figure out how to like bring my studio practice into that mural practice a little bit more because I have brought the mural practice into my studio practice, but I haven't really brought the studio practice into the mural practice yet. So it's a great thing to have. Like it helps me make a lot of money. I feel like I'm really well off that way and I've got like financially stable career that way, but then it's hard because you're sacrificing a lot. Um, and so that for me is difficult, and especially as a woman, like there's not as many female mural painters. Like most of the murals that I see are done by men, and so I feel like my footprint in the messages that I want to be putting out there are not necessarily out there. And I would love to be able to bring more of my messages that I have in my work out into the mural sphere.
I love that. What are your top three advices, like top three learnings for anyone who's in the beginning stage, in an emerging artist, um, that you figured either you were advised by someone or you figured by yourself? Um, for someone like for an emerging artist to move forward in their careers, three most important things you wish like you could save somebody's time with.
I would say like just get used to being rejected by everything because you're going to get a lot of rejection letters in your life. I
That's
know
also
a
a good side, you know. If you're
yeah,
getting rejected by too many things, that means you're applying at too many things also. You're reaching out. That means
yeah.
you're putting yourself out there.
But early on, like I got a lot of rejection letters, and now I'm seeing more acceptances than rejections. And I also know like where my niche is, and I think like finding your niche is going to be really, really important. The other thing
And
is
how do
just
you
like
suggest that?
finding your niche.
How did you do that? Yeah, and how did you do that for yourself? How do you suggest? What was your experience with? This is one of the most difficult topics for artists. They're like, how do I find a niche? We've done a lot of talk content, even on our editorial and membership about finding your niche. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, so for me, I think like writing about my work a lot has been really helpful because I start to notice keywords and start to notice themes that are popping up. And with those keywords and themes, I'm starting to realize that I do have niches that I fit within, whether I'm thinking about certain conceptual topics or I'm thinking about just like the way that I'm creating art. And so I know that like for me, I'm like working in many medias. I have like this very pink frilly aesthetic that I work with, and then I'm thinking about a lot of like really feminist topics in my work. And so, with that, I can really pick and choose the things that I'm applying to that are in tune with that. I'm not going to be going out there and applying for opportunities that have anything to do with nature because, I'm using microplastics in my work. Let's just be real. I'm using rhinestones and feathers and things like that, like all these ephemera that are kind of reminiscent of fashion and fast fashion. So just finding like that specific thing, writing has really helped me. Anytime I can do some kind of interview or article for somebody, like I just save all of that and kind of read through it and really think hard about like, what is my work about? What am I using? What am I thinking?
Yeah, that's so true. Um, so whenever we do a book, we ask our, artist collaborators, like people, the work that we are featuring, and we are very excited because you are in the volume two of the Studio Visit book as a winner of the Emerging Artist Award. It's a stunning book. I have it here. Uh, just don't know where, but somewhere here. Uh, but I'll see if I can grab one copy. Um, what's exciting is, every time we ask, and it's like I always felt that myself as an artist, anytime I do an interview, not only as an artist, but um, entrepreneur, anything, like this is the constant feedback we receive. Like sometimes, and I remember one of the feedback we got was, when I applied for this book, my goal was to get featured, to get published. But now being a part of this entire process, I think my biggest takeaway was how much I have learned more about myself while I was, doing the interview, while I was answering these questions, because we tend to do a lot of questions that are offbeat, that are not just like your bios and statements. We tend to do things like we want to ask you, like, okay, who you are, what you really do. And it was, and I was like, oh my God, like that's, I'm not alone. Like, I don't feel like that, because every time I also do an interview, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that about myself. Or, oh, that is exactly how I put this together. Or like, okay, this is my thought.
Yeah, you really do. You start to learn about yourself more. And I think that really helps increase your confidence as well. Like, I just noticed the way that I would have given an interview 5 years ago versus now. Like, I feel so much more confident in what I'm speaking about because I really have, just like you said, like, you've really dug into it and you really figure out, like, what is the root of this and, like, how am I being reflected in this thing?
Ah, thank you so much. I think also, I think it's it comes from both the points. When I look at work, and I'm a very curious person, probably why I do this job, because I love asking questions, and I'm asking like, okay, if you're doing this, why are you doing this? If you're doing that, I'm always thinking about, it's not the outcome, but the process that goes behind that outcome. And when I used to read books, like I still do, but I read a lot of our own books, and now, um, I was like, I like it, I love it. There's nothing to not like, but I feel like half filled. Like I want to know more about this artist than just their statement. Like I can read their statement on their website, but what more? How do I feel like this connection of um I don't know, how do I feel about this person? How do I know who she is? Or how do I feel like in that essence of their studio? I think feeling that connect in an artist studio is a very good and unique feeling. Not everybody can have like the access to be in an artist studio, but people who have been or not even in the arts, I think they truly savor it.
I was really interested in how you're talking about the process because with my studio process, like a lot of this is like the process has become really important to my work in a way that it hasn't in previous years. So when I'm finding creating pieces, like I really am thinking about like pulling things from a bunch of different places, and sometimes I don't have an initial idea. Where I think when I was creating paintings way back when, I felt like I had to have a sketch of something. And now I'm just thinking, well, let's just make a bunch of different elements and sort of pull those together and see like what we can be creating in here. It feels a lot like trying on clothing in a closet and just trying to figure out like what that outfit is going to
Oh,
look
I
like.
love how you put that. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think
It
even
is.
I
It's
feel like
dressing
that.
up. Like
So
my sculptures are playing dress up.
yeah. And it's also, so strange. I think we have so many similar ideologies. I keep saying, um, so there's a persona that I've built in my own work, which is called the modern Maharani, which is basically a modern queen, the female version of a queen. I mean, a queen is female, but also it's like energetically, I'm not trying to define woman as well, but I'm also trying to see that identity, that energetic feeling of being a woman. And I've written this in so many interviews, in so many podcasts also. Like when I'm making the work, because I work with embroideries, I feel like, I don't know how things work but typically if you see in a movie, but in Indian context also, like, women, so there's sari, then there's bindi, then there's jewelry, so there's a whole process of how an Indian woman looks like, and it's a beautiful process. And like, there's makeup. Like, if you see those screenshots, like those movie shots where like you see a woman getting dressed from top to bottom, and it's like for me when I'm painting and I'm making work, it's like I'm dressing my piece, like I'm dressing a Maharani. It's like you know giving it that, like, this is this body. Now I'm trying to add a character soul, um a person, or I don't know, something to it.
Yeah, and I think like too, like I love what you're saying about like dressing sort of this body or dressing this form. I mean, I obviously think about the form or the body of the work that I have, and I start with sort of this naked piece of ceramic that's fired. It's just bisque fired at a very hot temperature, and instead of glazing it, I slowly build it up so I have like a layer of color, and then I'm adding on rhinestones, and then I'm adding on pom poms or whatever else, nail polish, like literally using beauty supplies materials in the work that I'm creating. And, sometimes the outfit doesn't work. So you kind of put it to the side until you can find something else that works with that outfit. And I have a lot of like little pieces just scattered around my studio where they're starting to work, the outfits are starting to work, but I haven't found like the right pair of shoes or the right pair of earrings to kind of match with them.
Amazing. I resonate with that. Okay, tell me something. When you speak about opportunities, what has your been? Of course, you're the winner of the Emerging Artist 2023 edition. Um, I'm going to talk about that, but before that, I think one of the most important question before we talk about the award is also how do you figure out an opportunity is for you? I think this is one of the most, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I want to hear from you. How do you figure out as an artist? Okay, I feel like this could be a good opportunity I could apply to. What are your thoughts on applying to opportunities? Um, how do you budget opportunities? Like, our award has an application fee, like most of us who are not funded or does not come from a government support. How do you navigate that part as someone, who's trying to constantly push your work out there?
Yeah, I think, budgeting it the same way you're going to budget anything else. And sometimes realizing, like, I mean, I wasn't always making a lot of money painting murals. Like, I was adjuncting for 3 years after grad school, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I was living alone in an apartment. I'm in a different situation now, but I think those 3 years after grad school were really important. And so I learned to be just, very, very scrappy with the funds that I did have. And I set aside a certain amount of money per month. And I said, okay, I can apply to like one or two application fees or use one or two application fees this month. And so I would just set it to be that. And that's kind of what I would do. I would say, I have this much money. I need to find some really specific opportunities that are in line with my work. So, kind of thinking back to what we were talking about before, with just knowing what your work is about, thinking about the phrases and the keywords that are within your work that you can find within these art calls, and then just applying for it, just going for it, and writing the best thing that you can. I usually don't apply to something and just type it all out one day and submit it. I like to let it soak. I like to let it marinate a little bit. I want to be thinking about what it is that I'm writing, which can be really hard because sometimes you just want to like check the thing off the list and have it be done with. But, I copy the forms, I put it in Word, I think about it. I make sure that it's like making sense with everything that I'm thinking about. So I do try to like tailor it and make it specific. And I think that's the hardest thing when you're applying to these opportunities, is just like sometimes they feel like they can be really similar, but like tweaking a few words here and there can make it that much more specific for you and just catch somebody's eye a little bit more.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a constant, um, and I understand that because we've all been there. We hear back from a lot of artists when they're not accepted or they're not a winner or something. And it does feel bad to me also because I feel like I know what it feels like. I know I've been there, but I also know that as a platform, there's only like I wish we could publish books every day. We could create new books or new opportunities, and it takes like a. I'm sure you've been as a winner. You've got a lot of our services and a lot of things that we do within our ecosystem. Like from the ATH directory, we started building your profile to having the studio visit book to doing the podcast to even sending you the award. Like there's it's such a long, tedious process to making one little thing possible. So, and I wish we could, but this, I think, rejection, a lot of times artists take it too hard. And it feels like it gives them a setback, I feel. And it also makes them resent a lot of times in the sense of, I think constantly I keep hearing about this. Like, the system is not is with us. Um, like, also sometimes artists feel like they're burnt out in the sense of even financially because they're continually applying to opportunities. So how do you get like someone who's won an award and an opportunity, and you've had that even in the past? How do you think how did you become smart about it? Did you also reach that point?
I think I was at that point. I mean, I think I was at that point where I was getting a lot of rejections, and I was feeling like really, I wasn't feeling sour about things. I think I've always had pretty good pretty good like sportsmanship with that, with like losing things. I'm used to it. I once heard from a former professor that he has a folder of rejections that he has received, and so he like turned his rejections into almost this celebration. And for some reason that always stuck with me, so I have had a pretty positive attitude. Like, I know it can be hard when you're spending a lot of money on things, but there's also opportunities out there like exhibitions, that you can apply to that don't cost anything. And so sometimes just balancing out the things that you're paying for and the things that don't cost anything can be really helpful, because then you feel less bad that none of that money is going to waste. And then also just
And I
knowing
think
that,
importantly, measuring if your work is ready for an opportunity. I think often, even as a platform, I feel like I wish this person wouldn't have applied. Honestly, with I don't know if somebody ever says that, but I really at some point because I think artists need to make this judgment. And I feel like sometimes I look at someone's work and I'm like, I wish this artist applies because I know that their work has good strength, and I think it plays both the ways. Sometimes understanding the situation of and also understanding if you have the resources. Um, I think applying gives you so much clarity about your work. If within that process, you ask yourself questions. You ask yourself, "Am I ready enough?" Even like as trivial as having your images put together. Sometimes we receive horrendous submissions with really good work, but they were just not, their work was there, but as an artist I think they just weren't there because they didn't even know how to put their work together, and that matters. If you're not representing, it's not well photographed, it cannot be seen as simple as that. So and there are sometimes I see artists like they feel like, oh, I don't think I'm good for this, or like there's so many questions we continually receive. Okay, who's an emerging artist? And I keep saying like anyone without an age limit who's in the beginning of their career, because there's so many preset notions that we I think run by.
yeah. And it's hard too, like being, I mean, like me being chosen as an emerging artist feels, I've never been called an emerging artist, like this is my first time winning any kind of emerging artist award. So it feels like so much more real. And there, it is like this weird step, like this transition, I feel like, into a new phase. Cause I've had like some grants, I've had some exhibitions, I had like a publication or two. And like, this is kind of that defining moment where I'm stepping into this new place. And so, I didn't know that I would have made it here yet. And I think it's hard to tell when that point is. I think there were points when I applied to things that was probably too soon. Like 3 or 4 years ago, like my work was starting to develop, it was starting to get to a point. But if I was looking at it across the board, it still wasn't as cohesive as it was now. And at the time, I don't think I could tell that. Now I can definitely look back and see that. And I think a lot of artists who do apply to these sort of things are going to look back and see 3 years ago, oh, okay, like, I could have been photographing this better. I could have been talking about the work a little bit better. My ideas could be precise.
I think unless you don't go through those errors and mistakes and you don't realize, okay, that's what I did wrong. And I think with, why this rejection exercise is so important for all of us is because, and not only as like, even when we reach out um, for other partnerships, collaborations, I'm like, we could have done this better. We could have reached out better. I'm going to make sure that, our next pitch is better. Like, you do not get better without being scrappy. Like that's also the flip side of it, because if and also I think it is confidence building. Like um if you become too precious about yourself, like, oh, I am, like, okay, I'll reach this point. When you feel ready, sometimes you never feel ready. um it's never going to, the only way to feel ready is to keep going and to keep applying. I think one good thing could be for anyone, who's navigating this path is, um, I think in the sense of competition, um, I think knowing what kind of competition you would have in this place really helps you. Like I have applied to so many opportunities, knowing that I may not have, I may not have reached that point, let's say. But I also know that I want to take my work out there in front of people that, let's say, I would want them to see. Or also, I need to change my race. I need to compete with a different set of people. And I want to, even if I'm the last one, I still want to slowly and steadily buck up myself. And, so I think there's so many ideas. It truly matters what your individual goal is. and then you navigate, okay, this is where I want to be. If I want to be here, this is what I need to do. These are the kind of projects I want to align myself with, and then you keep going at it.
Yeah, and rejections also are not always terrible. So, I mean, sometimes being rejected from something has actually been very good for me, not just in the sense that it wasn't the right opportunity, but for example, I applied to, after grad school, probably like 80 different opportunities. These were murals, these were exhibitions, these were teaching jobs, and I got two interviews and I didn't get any of them. So I got nothing that I applied to. I had all these 80 things. I didn't apply to any of them. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Someone's like, "Hey, Ali, we saw your work. We want you to paint a mural. We want to pay you $25,000 to paint this mural up in Cedar Rapids, which was whatever 10 miles north of me." I'm like, "Oh yeah, let me think about it. Of course I want to do it." And so, like, they had seen something that I did because I had put myself out there, because I had applied. And had I not done that, and had I just been sad about all these rejections, like, I might not have like picked up that phone call. I might not have, gone through my spam mail extra. Uh, that was really important to me. Like, sometimes being rejected means that a better opportunity is going to come your way. Somebody is going to see your work and they're going to come back to you. So there's always that bit of it too, is that if you're applying to something, somebody's seeing it, and if you keep applying to it, they're going to keep seeing it. They're going to keep seeing like how your work is evolving, and they want to follow that.
Yeah. We would have never known about your work had you not applied. We wouldn't even had this conversation. You wouldn't even be in the book. These series of things that we're doing together, none of this would have been possible had you not taken that belief in yourself.
And I did. And I saw it pop up on someone's timeline, and now we're here on Instagram.
Okay. How about you share? How about you share your experience of applying to the award? Why do you think you did apply to it, with all honesty? Um, who do you think is a good fit? Because we are hosting our fall edition now, and I before I go there, I really want to say I wish we had a better, like, I think with every award edition we're trying to make it better and better. We had a lot of things while we were offering in the first edition, which is while you won. This even gets better because we are bringing everything that we brought for you, but we've brought a mentorship session program that we built only for emerging artists, award winners. That includes a one-on-one session winner call with Ashley Longshaw, which is like, I'm like, I wish I had it in my career, and a mentorship session with the amazing gallerist Liz Legit from the Liz Legit Gallery. She's been one of the top galleries in the US now. From that to myself on how to structure your career in the arts, as getting more PR, getting more publishing, and we have a lot of more collaborations that we are announcing, but we'll get there. We have Art Queens membership. We have so many exciting things that I feel like, oh God, this is such a good deal. Like, it truly is a platform. We really want to make this as a platform for someone to take them from X to Y. How do they get that support along with the cash award? Um, how do you think? How did you find this was a good opportunity for you? Um, and what has been your experience? I would love to hear that.
So I found out through Liz Legit. So she is over in Des Moines and I'm in Iowa
Oh, she
City.
was
So
the one.
yep, it's a
Oh.
2 hour drive all the way to Des Moines. So I follow her on Instagram. I've talked to her before over Zoom. We do know each other a little bit. So that's how I found out about the opportunity. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted to apply because she'd followed me. So sometimes little cues like that can be helpful. Like, oh, I saw this person has followed me on Instagram. Like, they've taken an interest in my work. And then you see that they're posting an opportunity. Like, that's a good time to jump in and apply for that opportunity. And so, I took that and it just so happened to work. So, that's how that sort of connection was made. And then just in terms of like my experience with you guys, like, it's been great. I just feel bad that like my internet connection hasn't been awesome tonight for the most part, but like you've been very communicative, and I really appreciate like all the resources that have been sent throughout, and you know I have my name up on the roster, and like it's been great to be thinking about the work that I'm making more as well. So I know we've talked a lot about just like the importance of like writing about your work, and thinking about the work that you're making, and I've been able to do a lot of that with the things that I'm putting through you guys.
Would you recommend somebody who's listening and who's on the edge? Do I fit in? Do I fit on? Should I apply? Is this for me? What would you say
Yes,
to them?
it is for you. It's for everybody. And even if it's not for you this time, it could be for you in the future. And that's life.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think that's very
happens.
well. I love that. Thank you so much. I feel you have such an amazing energy, and I'm so
Oh, thank
glad
you.
that we met. We are so happy to have you, like, as this flag bearer of our, like, the first are always special. I feel like there's so much that we
Oh,
figure out together. There's so much that we're structuring together because, you know, you have a pattern once you're doing things repetitively. We've
hmm
gotten pretty good at doing things that we've been doing over a few years, but it's
hmm
exciting to do new things with new people. So that's been very
hmm
exciting. We're very, very grateful to have you. We are also, now I'll pitch you. We are also having Ali, we have her on the ATH directory, which is on live. Uh, Ali will also be in the Studio Visit book, Volume 2, which is a stunning. I love that edition. I just am obsessed with the
I'm
Volume
so
2
ready.
edition. The cover is like, yes, it is. I wish I could tell you guys, like, I have it. I don't know where is it, but I have it here. But it is so, so, so gorgeous. We have a beautiful spread featuring Ali's work, her beautiful images, her interview. And this is different from what you're hearing right now because in that book, we don't talk about Ali and her journey. We, in fact, talk about Ali and her studio. So we're basically taking a peek inside her studio, what goes inside her head, and it's like a visual turn in pages within her studio. So I'm very excited for that. Apart from that, we'll be sharing a photograph of Ali and her award very soon. I hope it reaches you very soon. But yeah, thank you so much. Before I've pitched for you, things I knew were coming for you. What else have you going on you want to share with us?
Oh, so I have my first solo museum exhibition coming up in Alabama. That's going to be in November. It's going to be titled Barbie's Dream House. It's going to be entirely pink and filled with these sparkly objects. So some of them are like reflective of home decor, and then a lot of them are also like these charm bracelet and jewelry pieces that I've been making. So I have about two more pieces to finish for that I'm really excited about.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I can't
you.
wait to see you from emerging to the best to, I don't know if there was
Oh,
whatever level it reaches, but we're always rooting for you. Thank you so much for trusting with
thank
us,
you.
sharing your work with us, and, for collaborating. I think these collaborations mean a lot to me. And thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And anyone who's interested, please make sure you go visit, the show notes on the website. We link Ali's spread in the Studio Visit book, the ATH directory link to her work, and also the link to submit if you're interested in the Emerging Artist Award 2023 Fall Edition. That is from our end. Thank you, everyone who joined us for this episode. If you did like this conversation, make sure you tag me and Ali and let us know what you think about it. And it's always, always, always so nice to hear your own thoughts on things that we've spoken about, good and bad. Let us start a conversation that can help all of us. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a good day.
Thank you. You have a great day too.